But I just wanted to thank Kate and Leslie for being here today to help monitor the chat. So if you have done Zoom sessions before, you can put things into the chat and post your question there, and they will ask me to pause for a moment. We can address things that are happening in the chat. They're also going to be my kind of break, I guess, as I go. Sometimes I get moving along too fast. So they'll say, hold on, Pam, let's do this again. You went too fast on that. So they'll be sharing their reflections and inviting you to put things in from the chat as we go along there. So thanks for being here, ladies. And you are 2 of 6 instructional coaches. So in this week and next week, you'll be at different schools. So please use your instructional coaches when they come to the school to ask your assessment questions, because they can funnel them back to me or they can answer them themselves. So they're a great resource to have in our schools. And I've asked Leslie to do our land acknowledgement today.
We acknowledge that the land on which we are gathered is part of the traditional territory of the Chippewa, Odawa, Potawatomi, and Delaware nations. By personally making a land acknowledgement, we are taking part in an act of reconciliation, honoring the land and Indigenous heritage, which dates back over 10,000 years.
Thank you. So we are in that time of abundance in our fields, and so we have to acknowledge that our land gives us lots. Thank you.
It's a beautiful picture, Pam.
Oh, thank you. I was out picking up my pumpkins. So today, the focus of the session is hopefully we'll be able to answer your questions and revisit things we've worked on before. So this is what our focus will be what resources are available for learning. What is that content of the initial observation and progress report? Just kind of reflect on our professional responsibility to that and where we have professional judgment within the reports. How do I access the progress reports? Hopefully, just need a couple of quick clicks to get us there. Reminding ourselves, how do we input marks and what are some of the shortcuts we have or the things we must remember to do to make sure they are accurately put on the report and meet the growing success guidelines. And then entering comments. As we use Aspen, we have 3 different pathways we can follow to enter comments into the reports. And I was chatting with Leslie earlier today, and she's a copy and paste person. I am learning to do the tools and launching those tools over in, and some people are free typers, so we'll go back and refresh our memories and all those little pieces today. And then probably the answer to most of our woes when it comes to Aspen is when you can't make things visible on your report card. It's really important for us to use that post grade button. So if you ever reach out to me and ask, hey, I need help with this, my first question is probably going to be, hey, did you post grades? And that will probably alleviate a lot of our wonderings as we go through. So sound like a plan, Kate and Leslie? Think we can handle this?
Yep. Sounds good, Pam.
Yep, awesome.
And again, if people have other questions, they can throw them in the chat and we will address them as they come through. So first of all, what resources are available for learning? So we did want to honor that everybody learns in a different way. So one way of learning is having these live sessions, and we are attempting to have a recording. So it's going to be about an hour long, and you'll be able to see kind of like the full scope of what Aspen can do to complete the progress report and the initial observation. And then other times we want to access some print and video materials on demand. Like we want to be able to get at those materials whenever we need them. So both of those ways of learning are available to us. I'm just going to escape the screen for a moment. Oh, I forgot to do this page first. So you may have learned about this session from a flyer that was forwarded to you from your principal. So the intent of this was actually to advertise our live sessions, but then on the sidebar over here, there are 3 ways where you can access the resources. And what I'm going to share with you is where you can find the resources in print and in video. And it's all the same stuff. So it's not like you have to go to these 3 places. It's just you finding the path of getting to a resource that supports your learning, your style with that. So Leslie, when you did your reports last year, what was your main way of getting at them?
Well, I always liked to attend the live sessions because then it's a time that I have to set aside to actually refresh my brain and do that. So I
Yeah.
that. But I know there was a couple of times I went to the blog and went that way.
Okay, so we'll start there maybe then. So last year we put a lot of things in the blog, and our blog is still actionable. It's kind of like what's happening with our elementary program page. So you'll see that it's always organized by what's the latest posting that happened. So there's a little catching up about what's happening in the Science Education Partnership in there. And but if you're looking for last year's report information, come over here to the search this blog area and just type in reports, and it will jump you to last year's recordings and videos that take you through the parts of the progress reports. And you will also have like a link to the documents that we used in there. So creating the elementary progress report. So that's the manual. So you can click on it there. But some people say I go to the blog when I want to learn about math things. I wasn't even thinking about it for reports. It's totally okay. But maybe your place that you go to is the in the portal. So I got here by using that program button when you come in and do your emails and that sort of piece. So if you go into the program area, then down the left-hand tool side, there is the elementary report card tab. So if I click on that, you'll see there's a series of PDFs that may be of use to you as you go through writing reports, but there's one here on LKDSB reporting student achievement in Aspen. So if you click on that, that will get you to the document itself. So if you're a person that likes to have print in front of you and looking at pictures, does my screen match what's happening on the screen? This is your document to go through. And I'm going to scroll right to page 29 here. This also includes the links to the videos. So if you are looking for the series of videos about entering marks, they're all listed here, what you can do, and just click on those and you'll be launched directly to the YouTube video that's available for that. And those of you that are maybe thinking about using the tools function a little bit more to enter comments, you will need to have this comment variable piece. And so it's found on page 21 in this document. So if there are any changes to what's happening in the system, this document gets updated and you will be able to see those changes because I'll change the date on the front cover. So there's nothing new for this progress report time. So if there are changes, you'll just check to make sure you have the most recent one. Okay. And then lastly is a SharePoint. So some of you have been working with Leslie or Kate or any one of our other instructional coaches, and maybe you've looked at a SharePoint for our benchmark reading assessment already. We've created another SharePoint, which is a tool that's here, and it's within the Office 365 suite. So it's a SharePoint. And so there is one here for the elementary report cards. It's not too many people following it just yet because we just opened it up. So it's a home page. Yep.
Do you have to ask to be in, do you have to get added to that?
Yes, you do. Yeah. So
Okay.
I'll show you that on the flyer. Thank you, because I would have forgotten that part. So in it, all they've done is just move the videos into one spot, and it just has buttons. So you just click on the button to launch you to any of those videos that are in the blog, that are in the document, and now they're here. So again, it's you choose where you find your information. And then there's a document page that's here that has documents, and we're slowly adding pieces to the documents as we learn more about Aspen. So it's all going to be here. Okay, so 3 pathways. So if we go back to this, so Leslie, thank you for reminding me of that. So on those demand resources, so you can go to the portal and get the document itself. You can do the program blog and search reports and maybe find some other great things that are happening there. And then also, this is the request access to the elementary progress reports. So if you have this in your email, just click on that link and I'll get the notification that you want in there. Or you can just email directly and say, hey, Pam, can you add me to the report card SharePoint? So we're learning how to share that out a little bit better. Okay. So any questions about how to access resources? We're good? Okay. So our next question is kind of just to ground ourselves in our professional actions we have to take. So what is the content of the initial observations or progress report? So if we look at these two documents, the kindergarten addendum was written in 2016 after the kindergarten expectations were shared in their curriculum document, and then the growing success document since 2010. So these are the documents that we look at as the rule book for assessment and evaluation in Ontario. And so it guides our practice with what we have to do on our report cards and our progress reports, initial observations, and communication and learning. Today, we're going to kind of just do the shortcut to it, but I really encourage all of you to, get a copy of this book and have a look through it, read it, and digest as we learn more about assessment with our students. So just pulling out some key features about this. If we think about the time we're in now in the progress reports, when we are giving marks to a student at this time, we have three options: the progressing with difficulty, progressing well, and progressing very well. And so the intent of this progress report is one, to check in with families and talk about the students' progress, as like how they were doing as they make steps towards meeting the achievement of the curriculum expectations. So it's just, how is things going early on? We are not yet in that evaluative stance at this time of year. We are still really just in that formative assessment stance. So we can take some time and think, we don't have to make a judgment about how this is going to end up for a student at term 1 or term 2. It's just what's the progress like? Are they progressing with some difficulty? Are they progressing well towards that? Things, they're engaging in the learning, they're asking questions, I have observations about them, learning, got maybe a product or two that I can reflect upon, or is that progress going very well at this time? So again, we're taking that formative assessment stance and be able to tell that story with families. And then another snippet from the Growing Success that kind of help us ground in our thinking, because it is early in the school year. And sometimes we're like, what evidence do I have about how that progress is going? So at any time we assess students, Growing Success guides us that we must use observation, conversations, and products to help guide our decision about that evaluation of a student's learning or their progress of learning. Now, that doesn't mean we need an observation about everything and a conversation about everything and a student product about everything. These are the tools that I'm using to learn more about how that student is progressing towards the achievement of those expectations. So if we think, I love this language from the kindergarten, is like, as teachers, we watch students do things all the time. And in their documentation, they talk about, what do students do? What do they say? And what do they represent? So it's a really good time for us to be thinking about, I can sit back and reflect on a conversation I've had with a student, or maybe I watched them build a pulley and gear system. And so I get an idea that, yeah, they know how to work a pulley and gear system. I don't need them to create a product for me at that time. I know, like Leslie and Kate, you're in classrooms all the time, and you're like, are you seeing some of this evidence, visible in the classrooms?
I think the observations and conversations are so powerful. And I think that teachers sometimes have a hard time not having like that written product.
Mm-hmm. We have trust issues, don't we?
Yeah. Sure. Like, no, yeah. I need to be able to prove it to a parent. I've heard lots of teachers say that. But I honestly think, and I don't know, I could be wrong, but conversation, I learn more from talking to the students, right? Because they can't always show their thinking on a piece of paper. And so when you're having that conversation, I feel you get so much more from them, and you can use that to guide your assessment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so true. I think because we're coming from, like I was taught and I was a producer, right? Like that's how we were marked. And I
Mhm,
think we are in a shift of thinking about evaluation and assessment, especially from even an inclusive lens. And I think
mhm,
we have to trust ourselves more in that we spend a lot of time with these kids and we do have an authentic evaluation of them from our
mhm,
observations and conversations. I once read a quote, it wasn't a quote, it was a fact that like teachers answer like between 200 and 300 questions a day. It was insane. And you just think like, gosh, I feel like teachers in general feel like they need to have something to represent all of their evaluations or assessments, and that can just come from your conversations you have with
mhm,
parents, right? And we need to own
mhm.
that and trust that that's good.
Yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
often say to myself, like in a conversation with a parent, they don't really want to know how many times you get 8 out of 10 on the worksheet or like,
Mm-hmm.
level 3, that sort of thing. But if you say things like, I watched your child engage in this science learning. I had a great conversation with them about a book that they read. um, you know, I think that reads shares that you are building a relationship with their child
Yeah.
about knowing who they are as a learner because you're taking the time to have a conversation with them and observe that, and you value what they do say and
Mm-hmm.
represent,
Mm-hmm.
to pull that in together to see how
Mm-hmm.
they are progressing towards these expectations that we want them to achieve by the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So right now we're just able to gather that information and make some, you know, just share with the family how the things are going in our classrooms.
Mm-hmm.
So when we get into Aspen, we are going to go into that Markbook area. And remember, the Markbook area is the place that looks like the spreadsheet, and that's where you'll input the marks and enter comments on the report card. And if you're interested in building comments or accessing a comment tool bank, there is the tool section. And those two areas in Aspen do work together. But I would say as you're doing your reports, you're spending like most of your time in the Markbook area. So this session today will spend lots of time in that. And tools will be at the end if we can get to that and see how our time goes. But there's all kinds of videos about every little component that we're looking at today. Okay. And so kind of thinking back to what do we see in our kindergarten observation, just to remind us that this is what it looks like. And it's one box for the kindergarten initial observation piece. So the top box will be all filled in from Aspen. And then when you're in Markbook, you will be asked to add if there's an indication for English language learner or IEP, that will have to be added. And then the initial observation piece, will be your initial observation comment is in one box. So growing success for the kindergarten addendum says, as a teacher, you can make a decision which of the 4 frames you wish to focus on. You can focus on one of the frames, 2 of the frames, 3 of the frames, 4 of the frames. It's your choice because this is your initial observations about how that child is entering into kindergarten this year. And in the structure of your comments will be about the key learning, their growth in learning, and next step in learning. And so you have the judgment about what gets put in there. Okay. And then when we look at that grade 1 to 8 progress report, again, the top part is filled in from Aspen. That will be done automatically for you. And we have the learning skills, the demographic data areas to fill in of IEP and ELL. So we'll share that all as we go through the process today. Subject marks, and we're using the progressing well, progressing with difficulty, and progressing very well. And in some cases, the NA will be used too, because where we are in the school year. And then comments. In our district, we ask that teachers have a language comment for each student and a math comment. So again, both of those are about how they're progressing towards meeting expectations, and any subject where a student may have received a progressing with difficulty assessment. So then a note about that. I do want to remind teachers though, that remember we're in partnership. So if Kate and I are a classroom teacher and curriculum partner, she will have parts to fill out and I'll have parts to fill out. So that I will have access to my areas and she will have access to her areas. So it's a shared responsibility to complete that report card. So just know that it's a collaborative document that we're working on. Okay. And all of those pieces can be completed in the Markbook section. So you can do all of your progress reports and initial observation pieces using the Markbook. And if you wish to use tools for the comments in the learning skills and comments in the subject area pieces, that is your choice to do that. So we'll get into some demos of all these pieces. Okay. And after this slide, maybe Kate will pause, take any questions if there are any. But again, we have professional responsibility here to have a complete and accurate report card for our students. And we also have the professional responsibility to be clear in our communication. So, so when you're thinking about your comments that you're entering into the reports, I encourage you, let's use our accessibility tools to support the writing of comments. So in Aspen, there is a spell check tool, and it is only when you're putting in the comment area. So it's not a very robust editing and spell check environment. So if you are using Word documents like Google Docs or Word Docs, take full advantage of the editing tools that are available. And Grammarly works well within the system too, so which is like an add-on tool. I use it all the time for my for my emails and that sort of thing. Helps, and I like it because it helps me with my tone. It helps to tell me if I'm being direct or positive, that sort of thing. So any thoughts on that, Kate or Leslie, as we...
Yeah, I think it's important for sure. There's nothing worse than getting a report card back that's full of spelling mistakes from a teacher. You know, it doesn't look good for our profession. So
yeah, exactly.
Definitely use those tools. I'm certainly guilty of even putting like a he for a she and all that kind of jazz.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, so being careful about that too. And again, knowing our students well too, some of our students have used the pronoun they. And so if, typing that and including that when you're free typing or copying from Google Docs, just making sure about that. And then, but if you're using the tool piece, there's no code for a they pronoun yet. So that would have to be a manual check. And I'll revisit that when we get to the piece on the tool section. Okay. So then we are going to take a turn to Markbook. And I remember when I first went into Markbook, I was like, where's the save button? And there is none. So because Markbook in Aspen is automatically saving as you go through it. So again, that was a little bit of a trust issue for me. I was like, I want to save my work, but know that it's there. It constantly is being saved as you enter mark things on that spreadsheet. But then this is where we had some learning pains last year. It's like, I did the work. How come my report cards are still blank? Or like, I entered my math mark, where is it? Kind of thing. And so we actually have to do another step to get this onto our reports, and that is the post grade button. And it is a gray button. I'll point to it regularly as we go through the session when we're live looking at the tools in Aspen, but it is very important that we know that we have to do that for every subject that we teach. And I'm going to spin it around because it's like, you got to do it. And as you make any kind of change, add something, take something away, change something from a progressing well to a progressing very well, you need to put that change in. So I was a little particular about the post grade button. I click it all the time. Did I click it? I'm not sure. I'm going to click it again. So I was an over clicker. I found out Lori was one of my kindred spirits last Tuesday night. She clicked post grades a lot. How about you, Leslie? Were you?
Yes, I realized I need to remember to click it. And yes, as soon as you make one change, it's like, oh, I got to go click that so that I don't forget at the end.
Yeah. So I say you can't wear the button out. So keep just click it for sure. Okay, so I'm going to get myself ready for going live here. So is there any questions in the chat that we need to address, or?
I don't see any yet.
Okay, that's good. And so I'm going to go live to Aspen, and I'm going to be working in a training environment. So we have acted to protect student privacy by IT has helped me out, and they've given me a training environment to work in and what they call scrambled data. So these are not real kids to go through. The other thing I'd like to point out about this too is that they gave me the training environment to work in, and you may have noted, some of you are fast to watch, that I click login to get into this environment. And I'm working on a class that was constructed last year. So if you ever see the dates 2021 on my screen and you're looking at your screen and going, mine says 2022, you were in the right spot. So it's just because I'm working in a training environment. And they set me up in Sir John Moore. So if there's anybody from Sir John Moore, thank you very much. And we chose your school because they have a collection of subjects that allow us to learn lots. So they have English classes, French immersion classes. They have Ojibwe classes, they have French core classes, and they have kindergarten, and they have grade 1 and 8. So we have lots of places for us to visit and explore around here. So I'm on to my little handy dandy sheet, Leslie and Kate. So I'm going to work my way through. So first of all, looking across, where's Markbook? So this time last year, it was a hard find for us, but I think now we look at this screen every day. So Markbook, here's where we're going to enter into. And as a classroom teacher, I would suggest that you go through, one of your first steps is to go through and like, do I have all the subjects that I'm assigned to teach? Now, it might look like I have a ridiculous amount, 31, because I'm in the test environment. You're going to have your collection of courses that you have here. But just know that all of these titles on the top of the tables, they can be sorted. So I'm going to click on the word course here, and just note that the list has now ranged itself alphabetically. So that helps me a little bit when I'm looking for a particular course that I want to enter into. And I'm going to come back to the screen here in a minute, but down here on the left-hand side, the scores tab is how I get launched to my list of class lists that I have. So this is the spreadsheet that we're working on, and using the breadcrumbs here, I can always know where I am. So class list, this is last year's 2020-21 class for dance, and it's listed here. And we can go through and select all of these classes from this drop-down menu. That's one way. And look over here on the right-hand side, there are these radio buttons, VCR buttons, and you can go to the next record. So if I click, I'm now moving over to my grade 2 dance class. So you can go back, skip forward in the courses here if you want to use those buttons. Okay. I think because this is an experienced group, an advanced group, I'm going to show you something that prep our curriculum partner teachers may like. Since they have so many classes they are working on, maybe you're saying, tonight I'm going to work on my dance comments, and I'm just going to click on the ones that are my dance pieces. Then you can click on options and just show the selected subjects, and my list gets shorter. So it's a little easier for me to manage, which you're like, meh, does that really help me here? But if I go into this drop-down menu, my list is now shorter. So it's just a little bit easier, because I found it very frustrating trying to scroll through all of those lists. So this just shortens my list. I'm going to go back and undo that, because everybody's like, now what happened to the rest of my classes? On the right-hand side, it says custom selection. So just make sure that you're like, okay, I asked for something special here. So now I'm going to go back and filter it back to all this year's classes that I'm working on. So I'm going to get them all back. Okay, so for some of you, you're ready for that step. Others are like, nope, skip past that on the video. Okay, so I'm going to go to dance first. and the scores tab. And I had a couple of emails about this already. So this is going to show for me this important information to share. Some people, when they came in, when they land, it looks like this. So they don't have a spot to enter into any marks yet, and they don't have a post grade button. And they're like, ooh, what's happening? We have to go make sure we've set up everything for this term. So first thing we're not in all the grade columns. We want to go to grade post columns progress, and we'll make sure we're in the winter term. So then we get that page that is here. Okay. So I don't know about Leslie and Kate, but I always started my report cards in the same way every year. I always started with the things I don't have to report on. I started, where are my NA subjects? I'm going to do those first. So in this class, you can see that I put the X has been recorded for this dance class because I'm not going to put a comment on that. So I wanted to make sure that I can put that in here, and it is not in the progress column. So in Aspen, there are two different columns. Okay, so doing that. So I'm going to do that for another dance class. Let's do this for the grade 3 class. And I did something earlier today here, so I'm gonna take this out, clear it first, just to help me out. Okay, so if I'm in the NA column over here, I would like to put in an NA. How do I signal that on the computer? So there are some shortcuts. I can read in the book and know that I have to put a lowercase x, or you can use the command Control L. And do you see a pop-up come there? Okay, yep. That's good, because sometimes Zoom doesn't like my pop-ups. So this is good, you're seeing it. Mm-hmm. So this pop-up tells me, when I use Control L, it tells me what is the eligible ID character that I can use in there. So it tells me I can use the X. If you radio button is blue, so I can click OK, and it puts that X in there for me. Okay, so
how did you do that again? Sorry, I think did I zone out for a sec?
That's okay. Control L. So hold down on your keyboard, Control L, and it pops up that piece.
Okay.
And cancel if you don't want to use it. You can also just type in a lowercase x. That's good. And
I just remember last year I had a really hard time figuring out what was supposed to go in the IEP box.
Yes, and it's also a lowercase x. So that's true. Yeah. And if we had a student,
everything except that.
Yeah, so in that, so let's do that right now. So IEP, there's a student there, Michael Riley, I think is the our made up student is, there he is. So again, if a Control L, you're not sure, click in there, off you go. Okay. So I'm also like, I'm a little lazy. So I'm like, everybody's getting an X. This is another control function. So Control D, and it fills down the column. Okay. So that's a nice, that's, now use this one with caution, because what if I said, oh, I'm going to take that one out, for example, and do Control D. I just undid my whole work. So use Control D with intention with where you want to put it.
So do you have to do Control D after you put an X in one of the students?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay.
And if you get a red box, for example, it's because I used the wrong character. So that's an uppercase X, so that goes there. You can use that fill character too. So this is not required, but like dance will be reported in term 1. Say if that was something you want to save on that student's report card and put that on everybody's report card, again with caution, because you want to know I can use the Control D here as well. And it filled.
I didn't know that.
Oh,
yeah, it does work there, but I'm a little nervous, like, you don't want to erase comments you have put in there.
Right.
Yeah. So just so it does work. So it's kind of a nice place to explore. So that
it won't add on to comments that are in there. It will just replace them.
It will replace it. So if you had things in there, but say if that was like you wanted that, and then you can say add more after, you can do that. But its function is to replace. Yeah. So it is
that's good.
a little piece. So that lowercase x, and so we've got the IEP if you need to use that. And if you had a student that was ELL, it's a lowercase l, sorry, control L, and you'll get that filled in. I get lots of emails about, you know, I want to put my NA in, it won't work, you know, and we're trying to put it in the progress column. So it's just a matter of like reading the table and go across that with that. So that is persons. Okay, so let's go to a subject where we may actually enter in marks. So I'm going to change over to my music section. Okay, so I've got a list of students here, and I do want to do progress with them. And so again, I'm looking
Can
at.
I interrupt you?
Yep.
Do you have to do post grades on the previous one you were just on?
So I didn't do it. So if I go back to that drama, so it was a dance 3 that I was working on. My work is there, but if I go and look at that report card now, I go into my reports and look at that progress report, it's going to be blank.
Oh, okay.
Because I haven't posted grades to it yet. So it hasn't come there. But since I'm here, I'm going to post my grades. And it's going to ask you a series of questions. When do you want, what term is this? It's winter. It's going to show up for progress. And okay, I've been in this page before, so this is why I get this message. Say, hey, you've been here before. You made it changed. Do you still want to do that? Yes, I do. And then these withdrawn students, maybe I had a student that left me and I'm not responsible for reporting on them. I'll show you that. Do you click yes on that one too?
I was always wondering about that too last year. So just click yes.
Yeah.
And it's not going to erase, like if the new teacher has them and they've started working, it's not going to erase their work.
I have gone back to IT like 10 times with this exact question, you know. So if I do something in withdrawn and they do something, because I'm working with my report cards. So this kid may actually get 2 report cards if I had something to say. So these kids, for example, were in the class at one time. And so for some, I had to do a progress report on them, and others I did not based on the rules. I could go in there and find them. Yeah. And then enrolled students are the ones I look at every day. Like they're still with me. So if they went to your class, they like, let's see that student Page, Greg Page, like my withdrawn student is your enrolled student.
Okay. So, let's say I have to put a math comment in there, but the other teacher is going to put a math comment in there as well. But even if I put it on mine, it's not going to erase theirs.
Correct. It's 2 different documents. Yeah. Okay. 2 different documents. I'll be making a new video about that one because we've got lots of learning to go about that. It's more of a bigger deal in the term reports. Okay, I'm going to go back to that music class. Let's see. So if we're in a music class and we're going to add, and this is going to be good for any subject where you have to report progress. So I'm just choosing to do the music at this time. So again, Control L will tell me what's eligible. So D for difficult, W for well, and V for very well. Okay, so I don't want to put that first kid with a D. I'm just here to check, so I'm just going to cancel that. So my practice is just using the uppercase, put in the letters that I have listed on my sheet. Caps, W. And you can just go through and put in your marks that you wish to have for each student. Okay, and once you get down your column, that's all you're working on for those. Again, capital letters, Control L if you forget. And again, but we also have those IEP subjects for every, IEP is indicated for every subject, but it is our professional responsibility to go find out. So if Caitlin, who I think is doing quite well in music, she is an IEP. Does she have an IEP for music? She may have one for language, but does she have one for music? It's our responsibility to go in and find out the answer to that question. So, okay.
Maybe I missed this too, Pam, but you can just put the one letter. You don't have to put PW or PVW.
Because if I put PV, progressing very well, it's going to turn red for me because that's not the allowable code. Yeah.
Is that new?
Nope, that was last year. Yep. So V. So how it looks like.
Forgotten.
Yeah. So when we post grades to that and we look at the progress report, it actually, what shows up is an X in that column for progressing well. So we're not,
yeah, right.
yeah, so it's an X. It's not like, it's a column that's progressing
Yes.
well at the top and doing that.
So Pam, question, there's one in the chat I'm going to ask in just a sec, but also, you know how, so if music wasn't also an NA for the
Yes.
report,
Yeah.
would you put a comment because you've already put a comment? I'm just wondering about the layout of is it in the same box as?
Yeah. Yes. So when we look at the report, it has the appearance of one box. So may as well go and have a look at one of those now. So I'm going to run. So see, this is my 2021. Yours is going to say 2022. Make sure you select the winter term, and I'm going to run this report. So in the progress report, it has the appearance that it is one box. So for this page 2, so it looks like it's one box, right? But in actual fact, what is happening within there, there's space for language and French and math and all the subjects. There's space for that in this order that's over here. So if somebody, the music teacher went in and put a comment and it's the very first thing, it's going to show up first. And when someone comes in and does the language comment, it's going to bump music down. So language will come first. And then when math gets put in, it bumps it down. So again, the expectation for Lambton Kent is that students will have a language comment, which is that all of those language expectations, how are they progressing towards meeting expectations? And how are they progressing towards math? And those are the comments we are required to put in. And then the other subjects, they're not required, but it's your choice. If you wish to put in a science comment or you wish to put in a French comment, you can do that. So it's choice.
Yes, I think that's good actually to know that it will bump it down.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, like, if we said drama will be assessed or has not been assessed, I can't remember what you said.
Yes. Yeah.
Would you make that comment again for dance if you were not assessing dance?
Yeah. And so again, like if you did 2 arts and I do 2 arts, we may want to collaborate and say, we should check out and say who's putting in the progress mark for the arts. Is it going to be visual arts or is it going to be music? Like we should talk about that ahead of time if we're sharing that. And then say if it's like, okay, Pam, I say, I'm going to do the visual arts. I'll put in a progress mark for that. Kate, could you put in, we will assess music, drama, and dance in term 1.
Right.
And give that to everybody. Like you could collaborate on that, or you could leave it blank. It's your choice. Like what kind of relationship you have with your curriculum partners.
Sure.
But I would advise having an assessment plan because we don't want to be in April and go like, we haven't done dance yet and we don't have a mark, right? So, and it's April, like we want to have that assessment plan for the year.
So the question that's come up is about the reporting rules for how long students are in your room for.
Okay, so at progress report time, we are responsible for doing a progress report or initial observation for students that have been in attendance for 6 weeks. So it's you back from from now count back 6 weeks, and do we have those students? And we have that in our elementary program department. I'm going to pull up that. So at this time of year, we have one date. So we have that 6-week rule. And then when we look at our term 1 reports, we have the same 6-week rule applies and there's a window. So in the elementary program notes, which kind of gives us the scope of what elementary program timelines are. So this is 1 page. So this is where we are here. These are dates that we're having. And on the next page, so progress reports and initial observations. A progress report or initial observation will be completed for a student who has been enrolled in the school for 6 weeks between September 7th and November 5th. Okay, so it's kind of an easy thing to understand at this time. Yes or no? Have we had them? And then in term 1, okay, so when we're writing progress reports and as term 1 report cards, if we've had a student for 6 weeks from September 7th to January 31st, we'll have to complete a report card on them. There are in some cases that could be filled with a lot of I's, right? Because you didn't have them, right? So you don't have the fair assessment of that, but it's just fact that you will be completing a report for them. So we'll revisit that again in term 1, but this is in the elementary program notes. It's good things to be aware of. After that.
Good question.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to different teacher because he has different actions. So again, I'm looking for the homeroom. So I'm using that sort the course button. So I'm going to select a homeroom class here to change the view a bit. Again, click on scores to get this loaded up. And so this table is a little wider for us. Note that you can slide the bar over. I have my screen set to be fairly large print. So see how I have a little bit of movement with that. So there are 6 columns to fill here. So for each of the 6 learning skills, we're expected to report how students are sharing with us their learning skill habits for each of those. And again, there Control L will tell you what is the allowable character to go into that. So again, uppercase. So I can put an E in there. I can put the G in there. If I have a lowercase g, it's going to tell me I'm incorrect to go through that. And you can just scroll through all of the students. Growing Success says we must report on all 6 learning skills at progress report term 1 and term 2. There is no NA option for this. We must give this. So again, sometimes we may not feel we have a lot of evidence for that again, but again, reflect back on what observations do I have? What conversations have I had? What products maybe I've had? Maybe they have some reflection pages where kids can, demonstrate how they've shown initiative. So but you must fill in each one of these columns for each student. If you note though that maybe most of the kids you're thinking initiative, this is something that, I'm seeing some evidence of, but, most kids are still working at that satisfactory level, say. You can use, I'm just going to change this to that S. And I'm thinking, you know what, I'm going to give a lot of kids this control S. I can use the control D to fill this down. And then go in and individually change. Like Luna, you know what, she's got some excellent things happening there. And Jexlin, he's, another excellent. And down Kate, it's going to give that as a G. So you can go, that might be just a little shortcut for you to go and do that. Okay. And then it is expected for us to have, in addition to the subject comments of language and math, there is a a learning skills comment. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So I've been in here practicing around. So in this spot, some teachers just choose to come to this spot and free type into the spot, and note that your character count will show up here. Your character counts may be different because again, I'm in the training environment, remember? So yours will be the most accurate up to date in the character count. And there you can do some spelling checks here. So it will indicate some spelling going on. The ABC check here will highlight, and if you hover over it, it will give you some suggestions for that. Okay. So remember that you need to save that button and it will pop you back, which is a little click heavy, right? Like it's hard to, back and forth. There's a lot of clicking going on. So I will show you something else here. If you are free typing in this space, and you can, instead of just saving it and popping back to the spreadsheet, you can save and advance to the next record. So that right now I'm on Solhe's report. If I save, I hop to the next student here. So it saves, if I'm in the groove and I want to keep typing, I can do that. So that is that. You can see I'm a horrible typer.
So Pam, can you copy and paste from Solhe's to this one?
Yes, you can. So if I wanted to do free type here, and so Kate had this idea, and this is the other thing I wanted to show you too. So if Kate, we wanted to talk about your learning skill, and then I want to talk about independent. I know lots of us like to write and then do another paragraph, skip a line, do another paragraph. Please don't give yourselves like a frustration attack here by trying to have this all spaced out, because it doesn't always translate over to the printing of Aspen with giving these spaces in between each paragraph. So give it a test and see if it works. It seems to work okay for learning skills, but not for other subjects. So we'll test that out. So Control C. So if I'm going to save this and go to the next kid, can I Control V? Yep, I can do that. So I can copy it from kid to kid moving forward. Okay.
So
go
I
ahead.
I don't know. I know we're getting tight on time, and
yeah. Oh my goodness, are we ever?
I know. And you probably have way more things to say, but this was something I discovered myself. If you click that little arrow over to the side, click that. Yeah. So this is know that until like third term last year.
Yeah. So this is where the tools button launches. So I'll show you. So I've made a couple of comments. So if I click on my codes and drop down to my learning, this is my bank I've been building. So I have one there for learning skills. It's my collaboration is a G because I've set it up that way. If I pop on that, it will go into this piece. So this is from my comment bank. If I take that off and go, let's see.
And if you had your old ones in there from TWIA, then they are in there as well. You just
yes,
have to
they are. Yeah. So then there is a bank of comments under achievement, and there's a bank. So if I click on achievement, I know we're in the learning skills box. Sorry. See how now it's starting to have, there's all these ones in here. So I can then switch achievement, and maybe I'm looking for language comment. Now I'm starting to get them all by grades. So they're all in there. You can continue to sort down by grades, that sort of thing. So this is not the box it needs to go in. So it's not the best. See, it's grade 5, and then the expectation. I don't know what that expectation is, but if I clicked on one,
just yours, then you can click that show my codes.
Yeah, show my codes. Yeah, and that comes from the tools part. So I will pop over there. So tools in the comment section. So I built these comments. So I have one that I have for my IEP statement. So maybe that's where people, I know I'm going to use that one over and over again. So I built that comment in this area. So it's just a template you fill out. And like I have one for reading and a learning skill comment. And what is the comment? But I'm actually going to spend the last few moments on just want to take a look at that kindergarten report, because I know kindergarten teachers, you have been using probably the ones that use copy and paste the most to do your observation. So I've put something in here in some of them already, but so say if you can free type in this box, or you can copy and paste from in this spot. So I put something in that one here. Okay, so say if I wanted to put a comment in, and you have a collaborative document that you were working with your ECE partner. Or Kate, sorry, Leslie, you said you did all of yours in Google and copy and pasted over. Is that?
I did, just because then I knew where to find them for the next year. And also I use that as like my spell check.
Yes, so you can use all the suite of tools. Some people even dictate their talkers, so they talk them into their reports here and use the spell check tools there. But say if we wrote this comment, beginning of the school year, Pam wanted to know how to spell her name. She asked each day for help. Now she's beginning to look for a name card on the wall. Pam is making the connection. So if I wanted to put that in, Control C, and I can go back to that report and put that right in here. And then I can save that and it will show up in the reports. So again, if we wanted to look at these, posting grades is what you have to see to make that launch to the report card. And I'm expecting I might get a little error message on this, kindergarten teachers. It's because I'm in the training environment. They forgot to put a button on. So see if they fixed it today. But I'm in the, you go to your reports area and initial observation. So I'm selecting which report. Your list may be a lot smaller because I'm in the training environment. They gave me lots of stuff. So again, yeah, I don't think it's going to work. I'm going to get an error here. So I'll show you for that homeroom class we were maybe looking at. So posting grades, and then I'm going to go to the elementary progress report, choose your term, and run the report. And so the only place you can edit is in that comment builder, that comment box. So again, this is just a view to see if your marks are getting launched to the report. So they're going in there, your X's. And if we had launched comments to the reports, we'll get them to show up there. So I'm just going over my list. I think I showed all the stuff. We have, like, there's a lot of learning that can happen around in the tool section. So again, maybe start, if you haven't tried it, I would suggest something like an IEP statement, or some teachers have like an opening statement on the learning skills, like, you know, I enjoy getting to know Leslie in grade 5. Looking forward to learning together with her this year. Like maybe I was going to put that on everybody's report card. I might want to try it with something like that. So like we have the code language that we'll go through. So like in this learning skills comment, see, we have that coded piece that you get from the document. And I would suggest copying and pasting it from the document into this spot, because if you miss one of these brackets, the code doesn't work. So if you run into trouble, yeah, go ahead, Kate.
What if you type that code into your Google Doc? Can you copy and paste it from there?
No. So what happens, so if I put this in, okay, I'm just going to say that, Control C. I'm going to go back to this kindergarten, and I recognize the time. If people have to go, please go. But if you have a minute to stay. So say if I have this here, okay, if I take this learning skill comment, Control C, I just pretend I typed it in my Google, and I go to my Markbook to a learning skills student. And if I paste it here, I get exactly what I pasted in. I copied and pasted. This code will not work. This will what be printed on the report card. If I want to, so I'm going to, if I want the code to work, I'm going to click on this little tiny arrow. Kate, remember me complaining about it last year? So small.
Yes, I do remember this now. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So I go in my code, and I'm going to find that learning skill code, because I made it already. If I pop it in now, can you see Marie is working towards, her name is being picked up. Copy and paste, it doesn't show, it's copy and pasted.
Right,
but,
okay.
But when I used it from this area, it picks up if Marie is a male or female and what her name is.
Okay.
So code only in this one. Yeah.
Last year when I did to get around that, because I wasn't, my brain wasn't there yet.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Because I did everything in Google,
Yes.
I would go use the find and replace. So for example, if I wanted the same comment base or whatever for a learning skill, then I do find and replace. I'd replace the name, and I do that with the he, she's too. So that as you get bleary-eyed and not really focusing anymore, then it's kind of doing the work for you.
Right. And some people had a comment like for a male comment and a female comment. So they were doing that
Yes.
kind of thing. So everybody's got
Exactly.
their own little workflow to
Yes.
do that. But
Okay, I'm gonna leave so I don't get locked in
yes.
this.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Thanks, Leslie, for helping out.
Thanks, Pam. Bye.
Thank you so much, everyone that's with us still. A refresher, but know that you have all the resources available as videos and print document. And your instructional coaches are great resources. When you see them in the building, say, hey, can you sit beside me and watch this? Talk it out. And I'm available at any time, like, email me and say, this is weird. What's happening? And what will happen is I will ask you to invite me to a Google Meet. And so we can share a screen. I don't have access to your screen that you're working on. So again, another layer for us to protect student privacy. But if you log into Aspen, share your screen with me. Sometimes it's simply, I just look at this screen often to go, oh, look at that. You're in term progress. You're not supposed to be there yet, right? You should be in the progress area. And you're saying, like, I need to do a report card on the student. And I'll say, well, maybe it's hidden in the withdrawn area. Let's go look at that. So I'm here as a resource, and please reach out. I love solving mysteries. So please reach out if you have something you think is unique and we need to figure out how to do a solution for.
Yep, for sure. We're definitely around.
Yeah.
Our job is to help you. That's actually what our job is. So
Absolutely.
we're not just, busy doing other things. We're busy helping people. So
exactly. So no last questions in the chat?
No, there's lots of thanks, and I'm glad people could come and share what you learned.
Yeah.
And yeah, that helps everybody.
Okay, so I'll hopefully get a good recording for this. So if you have others that missed out on tonight, but feel like, you know what, I just need to watch it again just to, oh yeah, I'm getting in the zone. And, but know that the short videos might be a place to start as well.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Kate, and for joining us.
Yeah, that was great, Pam. Thanks so much. You're such a wealth of knowledge. I will be definitely contacting you when I have to do my first Aspen report cards.
Yes, exactly.